race fans, to this, the fifth and final stage of the Girapur Grand Prix. I'm your host, also known as Zin, if you can't pronounce it in homunculus language. In our last report, hometown favorite for Avishkar, Chandra Nalar, took out a considerable portion of the track and some of our Thopter cameras, so thanks for that, Chandra. So this section of the broadcast is going to be coming to you audio only. As they say with the Goblin Rocketeers, if you didn't get to the finish line and you're all in one piece, you weren't going fast enough. That's pretty funny.
That was actually sick.
Nice.
I'm very impressed.
I spent a while doing it on the
How many times in the mirror did you do it?
I'm very impressed.
I tried out like 6 or 7 voices.
But you also did it from the perspective of the new announcer character.
Yeah.
From the set.
I genuinely can't pronounce his name.
What was the name again? Vinwix? Yeah, it was.
Is that the same homunculus from the one where you flip the dice?
Same tribe.
It's actually from the same plane. He's from Valor's Reach, which is the Battle Bond plane.
Yeah. Fun fact about the homunculuses, no vowels in their names, hence the weirdness.
Zinder Split, all that stuff.
Zinder Split, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
We have Loremaster Matt back for an episode. This one is going to be our Aetherdrift lore special. If you don't know much about what's going on, we have Matt back on to kind of catch us up to speed. Get it? Pun. But the important thing is I also don't know what's going on. So, and I don't know about you, Danny.
Most importantly, can you do the rest of the podcast in that American accent?
I suppose I could, but it's going to be tiring as hell.
We were just talking about the wrist tooth thing, right? So it's like maybe you can make me feel a little bit at home by like just Americanizing it just a bit, you know?
I was going for the same voice that you would hear for like a monster truck rally on TV.
I was
like,
thinking NASCAR or something.
Sunday.
Yeah. It's like a Bruce Buffer. We hand you a microphone, you announce the fighters.
Yeah.
Ticket pays for the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
Definitely. Dude, Aetherdrift landed for us last weekend. We had the pre-release, and honestly, super keen. The set, while divided, people whether they like the thematics or not. The overall art is very, very strong. We've had a lot of fun reception during the pre-releases. People like the new mechanics.
Oh yeah.
And also we've had a lot of friendly new faces giving it a go because once again, like a kind of top-down design, strong theme. People going in and being like, I just like the idea of a race set. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, especially like the alternate arts of this set have gone fucking hard.
Yeah, the artists have gone incredibly hard this time around.
I don't know what's more popular, the love for like the art design of some of the characters or the hate for the piss-colored lands. Like it's two ends of the same bell curve on that situation.
Correct.
You know, every rare in the set is available in that piss border.
Really?
Yeah.
Every single one?
Yes, every single one is available in those like box toppers. You have the chance of getting, it's like a basic land and then any of the rares in the set.
So what you're telling me is if someone wanted to, they could create a whole deck in gold foil.
You could have a piss mander deck, yeah.
It might be the biggest eyesore possible. Well, we thought white border, gray border, all this silver border stuff was hard to look at.
As a resident like colorblind guy, I can see, I can see it. So it's like I'm on board.
Is it as shiny for you?
Well, there's more like outrageous color. So I get some of it. You know what I mean? Like the more abrasive it is, usually the better it is for me. It's why I really like the like comic book style of arts because a lot of like base colors,
vibrant, contrasting,
like primary colors goes primary color, not as much shading, and it means I can see more of what's going on. So to like a regular, I guess, viewer, you like it seems more basic, but to me, I'm like, oh, it's cool. I can see what's happening.
Real quick, now that the set's come out and we've had a chance to look at the kind of teams, the race teams, do you guys have a favorite race team?
It's pretty hard to pick. I mean, there's 10 distinct racing teams. Do you want me to just go over them first, right?
Yeah,
so I can give
we
them
might
a
as well
little rundown.
slide right in.
Okay, so. yeah. Because then we can pick our favorites and talk about them.
Power slide on in.
Because I'm going strictly off looks, and I already know which racer is my favorite.
Oh yeah, nice. So we're looking at the Girapur Grand Prix. This is the second year that this event has run. It starts on Avishkar, which previously used to be Kaladesh. We'll go into that probably at some point. It then goes to Amonkhet. It then goes to Muruganda. It then comes back to Amonkhet, and then it finishes on Avishkar. And there's 10 teams competing. There's actually a bunch of the Planeswalker's Guide to it brought down that there was like a ton of different categories. But then they also specifically mentioned, the set only focuses on the top one.
Yeah.
And there's like a couple of the commons and uncommons that are technically in like the second bracket.
Can I break straight away?
Yeah.
So the first set is Old Kaladesh. The first place is Old Kaladesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second place is
Amonkhet.
Amonkhet.
weird choice because there's like a Holocaust there, right?
It's honestly a pretty fun one to
all
return
the
back
gods
to.
died.
Yeah.
The bolus.
Oh, but
So, and they're just
that
like,
place up.
hey, you know what we should put over the top of this like burial Indian grave? Fucking like a racetrack.
I think it's they've moved on past their gods dying, and now
Yeah.
they're starting to rebuild again, and new gods are starting to appear on that plane.
Yeah. So I mean,
To me, it feels very like Las Vegas.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, don't worry about what
It's
was
more
here before.
like it's more like modern day Hiroshima, where
I can see
where
that.
they've rebuilt the city.
I can see that. I can
Yeah.
see that. Yeah, I mean, this set as sort of like a taking away from like the racing theme, it's really a set of like the next generation of, because Avishkar is very much the next generation of the Kaladesh setting. Amonkhet is very much a next generation of the previous Amonkhet setting. Like, hey, let's see how they've moved on. And on the Kaladesh thing, by the way, it is still okay to refer to the plane as Kaladesh in like the past tense. It's not like there's no planar erasure happening.
They're not
there.
whitewashing this.
Yeah.
This is very much
So I don't have to feel bad if I say it wrong.
This is very much a case of you can still call old Constantinople, or like you can call it. It's say it's Istanbul. It used to be Constantinople. If you look at a history book, it's still going to call it Constantinople.
Yeah, the
back
book
then.
hasn't changed, yeah.
Yeah, like in the history of the plane, it used to be called Kaladesh. Now it's called Avishkar.
So are
That's
we
it.
way past the War of the Spark, essentially? Like way past that.
Yeah, we're pretty far past.
Hey, we had the whole Phyrexian thing in between, man.
Yeah, but it's hard for me to tell, like, you know, when you put it on a timeline, how big those gaps are. Like, how big are the gaps from one to the next?
It's hard to say exactly. There's probably some more specific dates out there, but if I was to give it a time frame, I'd say 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
Maybe 10 at the most since the War of the Spark. Probably about a year or two since the Phyrexian invasion. Although it could be more, it could be less. It's really kind of hard to tell.
So the War of the
tricky,
Spark
right?
was like our 2008 GFC, and then the Phyrexian era was kind of like COVID. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's
Yeah, if you want to put it like that.
Chronologically, you're not that far off as well.
So we shouldn't be whatever the next thing is. Like this is the race that's happening. So what I'm expecting,
the housing bubble crash?
Yeah, we're
That's
going to
the
get
next one?
the life death race in like the world in the next 3 to 4 years. You know what I mean? Like it'll come.
Magic announces like, hey, by the way, in our 5-year plan, 5 years from now, we're going to do our World War III set. And you're like, oh, what do you know that we don't, Hasbro?
Yeah, true. So they will. And then so we've got and what was the third location?
Moragunda.
And is that a new place?
It's a place that we've had referenced before, and we've technically seen cards on it before. We had it show up in the Plane Chase product, but we've never technically been there before. Moragunda is kind of a fun plane. It's also sort of in what you could call like a next generation of. There used to be a huge civilization there that had crazy powerful magic. They then got way too good at that magic, and they basically like sort of nuclear warred themselves. They blasted most of their society away. They fractured the moon. It was a big bad time. So now the plane is kind of like a post-apocalyptic Jurassic like wonderland of crazy mana and creatures and oozes.
And all
and
the
dinosaurs.
creatures are super juiced up and giant.
Yeah. Basically, it's like a kind of Fallout-esque scenario if instead of radiation, you had super powerful magic.
Yeah. It's also like mostly a jungle, right?
Yeah, it's almost entirely a jungle.
In my brain, you'll get this, Danny. It's like the Catachan from 40K.
Oh yeah. A lot of dudes with like hard nipples.
Minus the dudes, but
pecs.
all the things that will kill you.
There are some buff shirtless dinosaur people and buff shirtless ape people.
I take it
There's a
back.
lot
It
of
is
that.
just Catachan.
It is kind of.
Yeah.
We've got closer, not further away.
Yeah.
There was a fun little side story that was set on Moragunda. It was like kind of separate from like the main story that was just purely about like a Conan the Barbarian style character existing on there and sort of learning for the first time what a vehicle is, because there's like some dark warlock that's like harnessed the power of this iron beast and he had to like save a damsel in distress from it. It was fun.
What I like to think of is just him with a giant claymore just smacking the shit out of a car, and there's a guy like, oh man.
So pulling us back.
That's happened every time I come
effectively
here.
what was happening. And and it was like, fear the awesome roar of my beast, and it's like he like turns the key and it's like and it's like, oh my god.
So pulling us back on track. Another pun. Get it?
It's good. There's gonna be a lot of those in this
The
one.
best puns are the ones you tell that are puns straight away.
I'm trying to make a point, guys.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a point here. Anyway, so we're back on track. The
teams.
races.
Yes.
Right. So the race teams.
Yeah. Okay. So for anyone who's played Magic for any extended period of time, you know that if Magic likes to do 10 sort of distinct things in a set, they're broken down by color pair. And that's very cleanly what the teams are in this one.
Perfect.
So sort of starting with the Kaladesh team or the Avishkar team, they're set in blue-green. They're called the Aether Rangers. They're the team that's led by Chandra's mum and this kind of...
Pianalar?
Yeah, Pianalar. And this like energy...
That's Chandra's mum? I didn't even know that.
I thought Chandra's parents died.
Chandra's dad died.
Oh, okay.
Chandra's dad died, and then Chandra's mum thought that Chandra died at the same time. And then all of a sudden Chandra popped back up, and she's like, "Way."
I like this. I'm like critical, like terrible thing that occurred, and her husband and her daughter died. She's like, well, that's done. She just walks away.
Yeah.
I'm not going to investigate whether my daughter's alive at all.
Time to go become Batman.
She did the way in which, just as a brief tangent, I guess, Chandra, the way that she like quote unquote died was someone was about to chop her head off, and then she exploded in a giant fireball.
That was
Like
her
a-
spark.
like a
lightning.
spark protection thing.
From everyone's perspective, it was pretty clear that she died. There was no body left over. Sword comes down, explosion.
Yeah.
So
for reference, Chandra is the main character of the set, the one that's featured on the promo art, the bike driver. She's the red planeswalker. You'll recognize her in a lot of Magic promo because she's the fire girl, the one with the fire hair, and she's wearing the goggles.
Do you know if Pianalar and Chandra have met previous to this set?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was a big part of the original Kaladesh set, was like them meeting up and bonding. You can literally see that on the card Cathartic Reunion, which is the reunion between Pianalar and Chandranalar, and they're hugging, and you can see the skin color disparity because like Pianalar is very clearly an Indian coded character, and Chandra's backstory says that she's Indian coded, but she's also the face character for a lot of sets, so she's Caucasian as hell.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of been like a weird one.
I like what I was really hoping was that the first time that she'd met her daughter that she thought died 100 years ago was her having a car race, and she's just like, she's been alive and racing cars this entire time. You didn't come to see me?
Yeah, so that would be especially brutal because the other thing about this set, the racing team specifically, you've got the blue-green Avishkar Rangers. Pianalar is one of the co-captains. Chandra is not. Chandra actually decided there was a better chance of winning if she joined another team.
Oh, okay, cool.
So she fully just went, I don't know if my home plane is going to win this one.
You got to be on the winning side, man. I don't know.
Yeah, and so there's this fun, like, masked person that's they call themselves Spitfire, that is the other co-captain of the Aether Rangers, and they kind of see themselves as Chandra's rival. Because Pia Nalar constantly talks about Chandra and how good Chandra is, and like, I crafted this car for my daughter, but you're using it now. It's kind of a rough situation for
like
Spitfire.
Pity plus guilt to spur you on, you know.
So we have Team Avishkar, which is green-red. And what do we have?
So Team Avishkar is blue-red.
Blue-red, sorry.
I can't believe you messed it up already, mate.
Yeah. Team Avishkar is blue. Hang on, let me get this straight. Team Avishkar is blue-green. Blue-green.
Blue-green.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then Team Amonkhet is white-black. Team Amonkhet is split pretty evenly between living characters and dead characters.
Yeah, zombies.
Because of the way that Amonkhet works, where basically the plane automatically brings you back when you die. If you were specifically mummified, you'll come back with a good idea of who you were. If you don't, you'll come back as a feral zombie. Their vehicles, for lack of a better term, are mostly chariots with like some kind of zombie animal pulling them around, usually hippos.
Yeah.
The idea of a zombie hippo is fucking brutal.
Yeah.
One of the full arts, it looks like it's somebody being pulled around in a chariot, and on the chariot, it looks what I can only describe as a testicle. And then there's like, the testicle is kind of like a chamber that just entrapped people. So there's like arms and limbs sticking out of the testicle. It's interesting.
I'm going to have to try and find that specific card because I can't see it myself.
Yeah, I didn't notice a testicle, Danny. Why are you out there looking for testing?
I put it in my this deck right here because it's got a cycle on it, so you can cycle.
Okay. So it's a card that would work with or referencing cycling.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moraganda doesn't have a team. Moraganda largely doesn't have like enough of a populace that could organize to make a team or ones that would even understand how to race. Then the team that Chandra Nalar joined are the Cloudspire racing team. They're from Valor's Reach, the Battle Bond plane. They're all about racing extremely fast, like very precise vehicles. They're in red-white. They don't cheat at all, and they won the previous.
They're the
year's
ones that
race.
look like Power Rangers, like something out of Speed Racer.
They've kind
yeah.
of got like the Tron-esque vehicles where it's a lot of like weird
Light
glowing
bikes and
wheels.
stuff.
Yeah, the primary motorbike that Chandra does drive appears to be that kind of it looks like something straight out.
It's
of
like a
Tron.
Tron light cycle.
Yeah.
When I first saw the images when they announced it, I was like, oh, I wonder how close they can get before they get because it's very Tron.
There's a few references to stuff.
Like it's the set is very bright and vibrant, but if they'd flipped it and it was dark and neon, straight Tron vehicle,
Yeah.
like 100%.
Yeah, 100%. So then there are, let me just quickly check my notes for sort of the one that's the next relevant. Probably the Keel Haulers. I like this team a lot. They're in blue-red, and they're the shark people.
Nice.
Yeah, the shark people,
I mean,
fish people.
all in for like steroid shark Maori people.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
That's your favorite team?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's shark dudes. It reminds me of like remember like the
They also have a really cool mechanic. They all care about cycling.
yeah that too.
Yes.
drawing cards.
Yeah. So the Keel Haulers, led by Captain Howler, are from an unknown plane. They then came through sometime during the Phyrexian invasion and just decided that they would really well be suited to living on Avishkar. So they just live on Avishkar now.
They also drive flying boats.
Yeah, it's mostly flying
sailboats.
boats, like the boat equivalent of a motorcycle, that kind of stuff. And as much as like their leader is a shark, they have a huge variety of different fish people. And technically, Kari Zev and Ragavan are on their team as well. But for some odd reason, we don't actually see them in the set.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Do you think it was like a car design cut kind of system or?
I was genuinely excited for like a new Ragavan in the set, or maybe like a Ragavan that cared about vehicles or something.
In one of the lands, where it's like the POV driving lands, you can see a little like a monkey or what I assumed was Ragavan as like a dongle on one of the steering wheels.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. So I thought when they released those, that you're going to see them somewhere along the line.
I would have assumed so, yeah. I was sort of getting prepared for like, okay, how is Highlander, Legacy, Vintage, Modern going to shift with this new Ragavan? But then he never showed up.
Or just even as a what do they call it when they're like the not the all stars but the
Like the special guest.
special guest? Yeah, I thought
yeah.
maybe they was going to do a special guest because they've reprinted regular Ragavan now a few times in the past, probably a year or two, and it's like sort of seen the price drop on that card a bit, but not a lot. So I thought maybe they were just going to keep hammering that to like bring that price down.
Yeah, I would have loved to see a Ragavan with like the weird street art promo stuff that they've got going on.
Yeah,
in the set.
Would match.
Then there's probably my pick for my favorite team, which is the Speed Brood. The Speed Brood are the insect people. They're in green and black. They are also from not exactly an unknown plane. The way that Wizards words it is that it's from a plane with an unpronounceable name because they're insects.
So they know they're just racist. They're not saying
We just can't understand
This
them.
is Wizard's way of saying, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
an easy way to write through a story when they're like, we know, but you don't need to. It's like, all right, buddy.
Yeah, they talk a fair bit in the Planeswalker's Guide about how the Speed Brood are very keen to talk to the other racers, but neither they nor the people they're talking to understand what the hell the other person's saying. So it's just a lot of like chittering and
This is
things
just
going on.
summer in Australia when you get hounded by flies. Like, leave me
They're
alone.
asking to be saved from the heat, and you're just like, get away from me. Surely there's a character in Magic that can understand all languages. Is it like Khan or something? Surely there's someone.
Probably. I mean, you could maybe telepathically talk to them as well.
You just get buzzing, and you're like, oh, fuck.
The Speed Brood are kind of fun. They seem to be more of like I can't imagine we're going to see too much of them again. They're very tied to this set. Their whole culture is built around going fast. And when you reach the peak of like your racing potential, you get hollowed out and turned into a vehicle yourself. Your exoskeleton becomes the next vehicle.
I do like it's very much like how a praying mantis, like the partner
Yeah.
eats the husband whenever like they have the children. It's like you become the sustenance.
This is the insect equivalent of like a Mad Max, where like you're finally worthy, but you get turned into a car.
you become the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, or like I don't know, your bones continue as like a warrior's armor or something. It's kind of like that.
I guess they are bugs. Maybe they're like their life expectancy is only like a week anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you may as well live on.
This is
wherever
your best
you
case scenario.
yeah. Little Jimmy, it's okay. Your best case scenario is becoming a car.
They seem pretty keen on it. Like the legend that we have for the set, I think is how you pronounce her name. You just put as many clicks and whistles and stuff in there as you can. She's like racing. She's almost to the point that she's going to like retire and become a vehicle. So she's hoping that she does really well or wins in this race.
This
so
is
that,
the one last final glory.
yeah. And then she'll get to like be preserved forever as like
Unfortunately for her, there are named main characters in this storyline. So good luck.
yeah, exactly. So if we get into the stories, there is a canonical winner for the race. That's pretty important. I don't know if we want to do that necessarily. I don't know. The whole story.
We'll touch upon it.
Is
later.
that a spoiler?
We'll touch upon it. I guess right now we're kind of laying the groundwork to know what the
we're
race
at the
is
start
are.
of the race.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah,
at the
meeting
end of the
everyone.
race we can do it.
Done.
Next team would be the blue-black team. They're the Duskmorn team.
Oh, that's my favorite team.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Also, they brought Duskmorn straight in from the previous set into here.
Yeah.
That one is the one that's led by Winter, the new character.
It's led by Winter and the Speed Demon.
The Speed Demon. The main thing is that this team is the one that has all the haunted cars, very punk Mad Max inspired, really striking blue and black art.
It's funny that you say Mad Max because there was another very Mad Max team on this one.
The red black one, right?
But yes, these ones are returning from Duskmorn. Basically, Valgavoth, the demon from that plane, he can't leave the house, and he really, 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 really wants to. But he can push holes into other planes, and he can sort of put minions through, I guess, if he wants to. He's never done that before. So he took Winter, who was kind of a minor / major character from the Duskmorn story, and he basically went, all right, I'm possessing you with this minor demon called the Speed Demon. You're going to compete in this race. If you can win, maybe you can get your freedom. And the big prize is pretty relevant to Valgavoth.
It's a key to the house.
You'll notice that Winter's appearance is a little bit different than we saw him in the last set. He's got fiery blue hair now. It's because he's possessed.
Oh,
Because was he in blue black last time, or was he in green?
He was in Jund last time.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was a black green character.
Yeah, he was Jund in the main set and Golgari in the Commander decks, and then in this set he's in blue-black. Realistically, as far as I'm concerned, the Speed Demon is kind of the actual captain of the team because Winter is very much just possessed by him.
I do like in the pantheon of demon like nemesis that it comes across, and you've got like all these incredibly well recognized demons, and there's just like names like ancient Ziggurat names, and you've got speed demons in there.
Gristlebrand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there's this one who just really wants to go fast. This team's purpose is just to race, dude.
He's kind of like the little brother. He's a little bit on the spectrum, and they're like, that's speed
Casper
demon.
had another twin.
I am the ancient evil with a like Grizzlebrand, right? It's like I am the embodiment of evil for this plane. I like to go fast. I'm the speed demon.
I like to imagine they have like a Christmas party every year, and they're like, who invited speed demon?
He just zips in the door before you can close it on him. And then, getting to the Mad Max reference, which is the Final Fortune, the End Riders. Final Fortune is the name of the captain of the team. They're in red-black. They're from a plane that we've never been to before, but we have heard about now, called Gestal, which is, it's just Mad Max. The world ended, and the only things that were in plentiful supply were vehicles, violence, and oil. That's it.
That's Mad Max, all right.
That's Mad Max, right? So then the Phyrexian invasion happened, and all these omen paths got popped, and as soon as one opened, they just fled through. They were just like, I'm getting out of here.
Anything's better than this.
Yeah, they burst through there, but then they ran into a problem, which is that where on their home plane, oil was extremely very, very easy to get. Yeah, very plentiful. It isn't in most other planes of the multiverse. It's a controlled substance at best, and they don't even know about it or have it at worst. So they're now they're like pseudo mercenaries where they're constantly trying to fuel their vehicles.
I do like the idea of them like getting onto like Zendikar or something, and they're standing there with the tree man trying to get him to understand where oil comes from.
Yeah, where's your closest petrol station? And it just like looms over them and lumbers and offers them a banana.
I also enjoy that they could talk to other planes that have figured out energy sources that aren't oil.
Yeah.
But they're like, no.
Yeah,
diesel.
They're thousands of years past oil, and they're like, but we need the guzzle.
Yeah, I mean, Avishkar has Aether. It's like an energy source that you can harvest from the sky. It's like a glowing blue power source. It's good for food. It's good for fucking everything, and it's like a clean energy. And they're like, petrol.
No. So any other teams?
Sponsored by BP.
Yes, there's a couple more teams. There's the Green-Red team, the Goblin Rocketeers.
Oh, yes.
They're
Yes,
fantastic. They're all about going fast.
And they're extremely suicidal.
Is that the ones controlled by what's his wheelchair fella?
Doretti?
Yeah, Doretti?
Oh, yeah.
Doretti is he's like the financier / co-captain of the team. He kind of regrets being involved in the race now because he realized he just wanted to like teach goblins about how to like make machines and stuff like that, and then they went way too crazy with it. And
now they're strapping themselves onto rockets. To go fast.
Well, see, that's one of the things is these Goblin Rocketeers, they actually believe that they've transcended into a form of the afterlife because they were strapping rockets to themselves in the home plane that they had. And then they boosted through the sound barrier in order to what they do, what they think is meeting the boost god. Or sorry, I should say it in Goblin. Boost god! It's in all caps every time it shows up. I don't know if that picked up on
the flavor text on all the cards is usually the most fun.
Yeah, the flavor text on the column is quite funny. I do like that they've turned him into what appears to be a guy out of what's that? He's with like a leather jackets and a slick black hair.
What?
All the girls love the movie.
What? Grease?
Yeah, Grease. He looks like the guy from Grease. But
wow, that was a real hard stretch. Nah, you gave me nothing there. Got it. You gave me leather jacket, slick back hair.
Oh, no, that seems to be like 90% of that movie.
I mean, he's kind of greaser-ish in that he's just like a mechanic.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's just covered in grease and
but if you look at him,
slick back hair.
He looks like the Grease guy.
No, he looks like the Fonz, but like retired. Because he's in a wheelchair.
Isn't that the same thing?
Dude's got a pot belly. He's sitting in a wheelchair, and he just looks tired. And like, I don't know. I don't get John Travolta vibes for that at all. Then there's probably my vote for the most boring team, which is the Quick Beasts, the Green-White. They're from a plane.
Who would have thought the Green-White would be the least interesting?
Oh, yeah.
Shocker.
They're from a plane called Alacria. We've never been there before, but this is now we're hearing about it. Basically, they have these huge creatures that, based on the emotional connection that you can have between them, their physical capabilities can move exponentially.
So Avatar.
Kind of.
Yeah, that was the reference I was going to make.
Yeah. It's like the more you bond with this giant wolf or griffin or whatever, the faster and stronger it can go, right? If you guys really love each other so much, they can shrug off damage and that kind of stuff. So there's kind of co-captains for that team. There's Caradora, and the name of the griffin is called Lagarin.
I would bond with myself because I love myself so much. I'd be invincible.
So you're just in the race running? That's all you're doing? You're just running?
I'm running real fast. Running from reality.
Just like your hero, Sonic the Hedgehog.
I'm just imagining like someone from Alacria who has a very young Quick Beast, and they're physically running with like a chihuahua under their arm, and the chihuahua's the one powering them.
Am I the rider or the ridey?
You're the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah. Danny fucking overtakes you, going, and he's got like this little pocket dog. And then
see you later, Fonzie Goblin.
There's one final team, which are the Guidelight Voyagers. I find these guys really interesting because they're technically one person.
The white-blue team?
They're the white-blue team, yeah. They are kind of a hive mind in a way. They have one named character called Medicant Core.
He's the cool robot guy, right?
Yeah, he's the cool robot guy. Yeah. And then all of the other ones are kind of just sort of like parts of him.
Oh, I didn't know that. Because there's a few pictures of him giving like seminars or something, like of cards, where he's just like, telling a group of other robots like some shit.
They're basically all him. Medicant Core is the entire team.
He's the ultimate narcissist.
He's like me with all my friends. Just it's cool, guys. Let's go.
Do you make friends by like snapping off your fingers and giving it a name?
What I do in my time is my own man.
Yeah. So he's kind of fun. The Guidelight Voyagers came from an unknown plane sometime during the Phyrexian invasion. That's how a lot of the backstories for these teams start. Which is, I guess, fun.
So I guess now that all the races are here and they're racing for something we'll touch upon in a bit, but how did we find all the races at the start of the Gear Up Grand Prix? Because we've kind of had these big story plot points of like the villains, like we had it after the War of the Spark. This is where I kind of was mostly into the story leading up to the War of the Spark. I'm not sure about yourself, Danny, as well, where we had the finale of Nicobolus being the villain and he's kind of finished. Yeah, and then we had the big old Phyrexian invasion. And then after the Phyrexian invasion, we find ourselves here. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do we find ourselves from the Phyrexians to the Gearbox Grand Prix. So what's the plot point there?
Okay, so from the Phyrexian invasion, we had sort of a dangling plot thread that's gone through all of the sets.
Because I guess the main clincher of the Phyrexian invasion was that previously only planeswalkers and very, very specific things could travel through the planes, the multiverse effectively. Magic the Gathering lives in a multiverse.
Yeah.
And then the Phyrexians were trying to find out how to travel through the multiverse.
Yeah.
And then they figured it out through, I believe there was the World Tree.
Realm Breaker.
The Realm Breaker.
They basically they took the world they took a sapling of the world tree from Kaldheim and they made their own.
So they were able to make their own paths
Yeah.
through the multiverse effectively.
Yes.
And that's how we found ourselves here.
And so the Phyrexian invasion is kind of like the last huge plot point in the Magic story. Since then, we've had basically self-contained episodes of sort of like a story with an interweaving plot thread between them. Starting from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, we got introduced to this character of Lute. He's a tiny, cute little baby Yoda. He has a special ability where he can tell where omen paths are about to open up, where they are at all points in time, and maybe possibly can open them himself. Right? That's very useful.
And we're not sure what
Phyrexian
race he's from.
Yeah, he's probably Fomori, but that's real deep lore. We're not going to get into.
That's
it.
the Hasbro branding race that one there. Look, they come along with Furbies and other
Because the Fomori
cute
are
sellable items.
The Fomori are being set up to be almost kind of like a precursor race,
Yeah.
like a progenitor style race.
Fomori is a term from Irish mythology meaning giant.
I do like the idea of something like in Halo where you fight the Forerunners and they're giant like scary robot guys. It could just be replaced with lots of these little like furball guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're the
yeah.
Forerunners.
Hey, I've watched Star Wars, dude.
Yeah. Technically, we have seen Fomori as well. If you want, there are 2 cards that reference Fomori. There's Fomori Nomad from Future Sight and Ruhan of the Fomori. They're like giant goat horned giants. So we had Lute, and Lute was taken by Jason Vraska as sort of like an adoptive son. But it seems that there's something sinister going on. Jace and Vraska are going to try and use Lute to do something big that is about rewriting the multiverse, like changing it in allegedly a good way, right? There's a great card in this set that focuses on that idea, which is the blue enchantment, where you untap all your non-land permanents at the end of your turn.
It's funny. I was actually going to bring that up because there's a bunch of like things in there with like I guess they've got the mind control spikes. From Jason.
That's an event right at the end of the story, and the flavor text perfectly encapsulates what Jace is doing at the moment, which is that Jace says, I'm sure they'd all agree with his plan. He just didn't have time to convince them.
Yeah.
He's just mind controlled everybody instead of actually being like, hey guys, here's my plan. Break it down point by point. Which is a very Jace thing to do.
Yeah, because I guess like he's been such a mainstay of the story for so long. There's a lot of times where he's done the good thing by trying to convince everybody that what he's doing is right, and he's been kind of like cocked around on the way there. So I guess he's past that point of being like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, and if you're a mind mage, you probably get pretty frustrated when other people have opinions different than yours, and so you're just like, I'm just going to mind control them, which is super unethical, but that's also Jace. And then so in the sort of storyline since then, we've been seeing Lute and Jason Vraska like moving around in the background. They were in Bloomborough, they were in Duskmorn, and in the Duskmorn plotline, Lute got captured.
So you quickly mentioned a thing called the Omen Paths. Just for the listeners as well, what are the Omen Paths?
They're basically just like portals that can move from one plane to another.
Because before, only planeswalkers could travel through the planes, these Omen Paths opened up post-Phyrexian War, and it's starting to allow regular people through the multiverse.
In the old school Magic story, there were planar portals. Then all the portals closed. Then there was a big period of time that, like most people I know have played Magic in, where planeswalkers only could move between planes. So storylines had to be very planeswalker focused, right? Because if you wanted to have recurring characters, they had to go to different planes. Now, a lot of planeswalkers have lost their spark. They're a lot more rare, and there are these portals that go between. Some of them are stable. This race uses stable ones that like they're always open. Some of them open and close, right? You can't predict it. That's why Lute is so useful. And so he was kidnapped in the Duskmorn story by Winter. Because Winter, I guess, knew about this race that was coming up, and they're basically using him to cheat. They're doing.
I like that loot is possible for greater things, but he just wants to win the race.
Yeah, he's become the battery.
Yeah.
The battery rabbit. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you could do so much with loot, but they put him in a tiny cage and they strapped him to the outside of their vehicle, and they're doing shit like where you'll see the Duskmorn vehicle like veer off the track, and then 3 turns later they're ahead of you, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? So that's kind of fun, and that's
I like thinking more that
what's leading
they're
into.
having a discussion about what they can do with him, and one of them was just like, "Oh, I thought you said put him in the boot," and she said, "No, his name is Loot." So that's
Good one.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that's sort of the. I mean, I don't know anything else to
Moving
go
on.
off of that. I can't continue the bit, so all I have to do is just go into it.
You're supposed to yes and Matt. That's the whole.
Yeah.
That's the whole deal.
No, I'm the well actually kind of guy. I'm not a yes and. Yeah, so that's the plot thread that's been going through.
Okay.
and Bloomborough, Duskmorn,
So we're
Outlook,
not,
Thunder Junction,
and
they're
that-
self-contained.
Gotcha. So the plot is leading to a point where we're not quite sure yet what Loot's ultimate plan is and where ultimately the universe is going to go. So now that we have so how did the Gearper Grand Prix start? What was the intention of the Gearper Grand Prix, and what are we racing for?
So this is actually the second year that it's run.
Okay.
It ran last year. This is the first time that it's running with lots of good big teams from other planes.
Was it originally a Vishka thing?
Yeah, it was originally a Kaladesh thing.
Gotcha.
Basically, they had, and this is something I wanted to touch on, because I know, Danny, going into this set, you really wanted there to be Fast and Furious references.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
I hate to break it to you, there are none. There's not a single one.
There is a Mario Kart reference.
There is a Mario Kart reference, but I have deep dove on this set from the art to the names to the flavor text multiple times. I can't find
Not a single
one.
Vin Diesel.
It feels to me like such a opportunity lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why I mention it right now.
No.
Because
You know what that means? There's a chance for another set
Yeah.
where they have.
There's always Fast Furious 25. So
Yeah. And the reason I mention it right now is that's how the Grand Prix started, was illegal street races. So potentially the chance for a Fast and Furious reference was in the past.
it's weird.
And then now that Amonkhet is part of Avishkar is part of the multiverse, they want to establish themselves as like a trade partner and get sort of recognized and maybe have like trade and currency between other planes. As a way of making alliances. So, hey, let's host this huge race, right? That's basically how this starts. And there's a new prize every single year. This year, it's something that they found in the basement of like the old government. When we moved from Kaladesh over to Avishkar, there was a big government change. And they found this artifact where some planeswalker some time ago figured out how to remove their own spark and put it in a box. And that's the kind.
It's like Trump goes into office and he's like, he finds like a box of nuclear codes in the basement. And he's like, I should give these away at like a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
You're like, what?
Every country puts in their best players. Dude.
Yep. Win the nuclear codes. And yeah, so the thing is
I
that
would
this
watch
thing
that.
is everybody would have to. You'd be sitting in front of your TV being like, fucking come on.
Yeah,
man.
certain team wins. You just like, sorry, little Jimmy.
Yeah.
This will
But
be
a
your last
wild
night
card
on Earth.
wins. It's like New Zealand gets it. And you're like,
Let's see how this goes. Yeah. So the Aether Spark, as it's called, which is a card in this set, is completely untested. We actually have no idea what it will do.
Okay.
But hypothetically, you hold it and it gives you the power of a Planeswalker Spark.
yeah.
This is the Boppet looking item.
the
that's
Aether
from,
Spark.
Yes,
Correct.
that's from
the
on
new
Planeswalker.
Planeswalker artifact.
Yeah, it's a Planeswalker Spark in a box, and the current government is like, well, we don't really need this thing because we can travel via Omen paths now. So it's kind of like a weird oddity, but it could allow an individual to have a lot more ability to move around the multiverse.
Yeah.
That's why Chandra wants it. Chandra wants to get it for her girlfriend Nissa, who no longer has a Planeswalker Spark and is super depressed about it. So she wants to win the race so that she can give it to her paramour.
It's a pretty good gift.
Yeah.
Exactly. Here's your Spark back.
It's like getting your girlfriend a car or something, I guess.
No, it's more like giving someone the ability to walk again. Yeah.
I was thinking more in the instance of someone had a double mastectomy and then you got them a pair of fake tits. They're not the same.
That is important.
That is important.
They're not the same, but they can give you the feeling
Yeah.
like you had the original ones.
Gotcha.
So that's largely where the race starts. You have these 10 teams. Some of them are racing for their own purposes of just like the Guidelight Voyagers want to figure out how to traverse Omen Paths and get home.
Yeah.
The Goblins are just like,
Everyone's
let's
in
go
there
fast.
for their own reasons. Gotcha.
And then you've got Winter, who's like, I need to win the race because if I do, I think I get to leave Duskmorn.
So Valgavoth can probably start leaving Duskmorn, you reckon?
Yeah, if he got the Aether Spark, that would be pretty bad.
Yeah. I like the idea that one of the planes featured is Amonkhet, and Amonkhet is an Egyptian-style, like really old-school, still historic Egypt with a bunch of gods, and they just saw like races coming through, and they're like, "Yeah, we want some of that action."
Yeah, for sure. The Amonkhet team, which is apparently the way you actually refer to people from Amonkhet, is Amonkhet.
Yeah.
They're really cool. They've had multiple like apocalypses hit their plane, and now they're completely rebuilding from scratch. A lot of the Amonkhet populace is very, very young. There was a thing in their society in the original Amonkhet block where you would get killed off probably before you hit 21, because there was these big like trials, right? So you were training to be the ultimate warrior, and then you'd get ritualistically killed. So the entire population is like sub 30. And so now they're trying to restart themselves in the multiverse. So they want to have a big percentage of their culture be about actually having fun. They've really had to struggle hard to rebuild their society. So
It's time for a new beginning.
Yeah, we've got to have sports, and we've got to have like competition that is healthy and is not for survival.
The whole thing with Amonkhet's quite an interesting plane, and I really do like. If you're listening here and you want to check out some cool magic lore, the plane of Amonkhet has a ton of really cool lore. We had the original 5 gods of Amonkhet, one for each of the colors. Basically, they all died, and the only one left alive is Hazaret, the red one.
Yeah.
And now we have new gods appearing. Like we've seen that frog lady who's
the thick frog.
Yeah.
Did Hazaret not get zombied by the?
Hazaret,
it's the only one that got away.
Yeah, Hazaret is the only one of the main 5 that got away. So yeah, there was originally gods on Amonkhet's plane, and which I think might have been called something different then. Nicol Bolas showed up.
Yeah.
That was the original Amonkhet story. He corrupted them.
Big old dragon comes up and he's like, I'm actually the only god that matters. Worship me.
Makes sense.
I'm going to wipe out everyone over the age of 18. I'm going to wipe the minds of all the gods and tell them, yeah, I've always been in charge. So yeah, now we have Amonkhet, where Hazaret is the last remaining god that exists that actually wants to help the populace.
And she's racing? Question mark?
No.
Damn it.
That would be fun, though. She's largely kind of like in charge of wandering out into the wastes and trying to find stuff that is useful. She's missing an arm as well. If you see in her art, it's kind of hard to tell. She has a new like Lazatap arm. I guess that's pretty cool. She got her arm chopped off in the Hour of Devastation. Thus, for people that played in Hour of Devastation or have played with the Scarab God or the Locust God in Commander, they still exist. They're just out there somewhere. And there's people that worship them. They call themselves the Chitin Court.
Yeah. They were always they were gods in Amonkhet that were trying to vie for power, I believe.
I think they were
Scorpion
like
god, Scarab god.
Yeah, they were part of like some original pantheon that then Bolas was like, I'm gonna hide you away and you're gonna be part of my big master plan. It's
Gotcha.
ancient history. But now that Amonkhet has reawoken, there's this thing that happens with planes and gods where people's belief and people's needs and that kind of stuff manifest physically as gods. So the Luxor River, which flows through, it's basically like the Nile, it's starting to flourish again. So we now have a new god of the Nile. The undead of the plane are now becoming equals and stronger. So we now have a new white-black god that is kind of like a custodian of regular people and zombies.
I do like that if they're all dying by like 30, their history is 3 times
faster,
like older / faster than regular. You know what I mean? Like they're coming, they're boning, they're having children, they're getting out by 30. It's like a generation goes down from like 40 to 90 years to like under 30 years.
Yeah.
So like I'm 9 generations. And you're like the guy's like 100 years old.
And then like to contrast that, you've got the people that have been zombified and mummified, and they've been around for
Forever.
like 200.
They're just trying to use their iPhone 5s, and they're like, fuck.
They got killed at 2020, like they got killed at the age of 20 like 200 years ago, and they've been 20 for 200
So now,
years.
going back, so now we've kind of caught up to where we are in Aetherdrift. during the race, is there any significant storylines and events that happen?
The race plays out largely as you'd expect. It's crazy.
The goblins
it's
explode
dangerous.
on the start line.
Yeah, the goblins are exploding.
What's the thing in the Star Wars Phantom Menace where that weird goblin guy's jet engine doesn't start and it just shoots off straight away?
Yeah, basically that. And the Duskmorn team is cheating the entire way.
Yep.
Chandra is like really trying to race out there. It really all comes to a head when we get to Amonkhet for the first time. There's this weird storm that starts, and we can see a dragon. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, Amonkhet doesn't have dragons like that. This is apparently meant to be some kind of lead-in to Dragonstorm.
Oh, so kind of an early teaser, storyline plot thread towards the next set in line, which is Tarkia Dragonstorm, a return to a fan favorite set.
Yeah.
Tarkia.
So there's a tiny little bit in there that's like, whoa, hang on a minute. There's dragon storms happening in other worlds. There was technically a bit of that also happened in the Bloomborough story, where it was like, oh shit, there's a dragon that just popped up here in a random thunderstorm.
Yeah, a dragon appearing in an animal critter plane? Good luck, guys.
Yeah. it's an ecological disaster with just one creature.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of being like, we have a category 5 like tsunami coming in. They've got a category like 9 Dragonstorm, and it's just raining dragons. Like the dragons don't even do anything, but they're just big and heavy. And you're like, fuck, man, I just replaced my roof. And there's dragons slapping into it.
Yeah. Imagine if a storm could chase you.
You got to feed them after as well. I was like, oh, now I've just adopted 9 dragons. Got to feed the fucking thing somehow.
Careful, you just touched upon someone's fantasy.
Yeah, 100%.
This is way off for Sunday, but like you said, Loot was in Bloomburrow. Where was Loot in Bloomburrow? What was he doing? What was he? He was in cards or just in the story?
He was just in the background.
Got it.
He kind of blends in.
Yeah, it's true.
You remember like Raoul Zarek being turned into an otter in that story?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Raoul Zarek was trying to find Jace, and he basically spends the entire story just being like, hey guys, where's this Jace guy? Have you seen like a guy in a blue cloak? And they're like, well, there was this fox in a blue cloak, and it had like a snake person with it and a tiny little fuzzy orange thing. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he gets distracted by the whole Bloomborough story.
Yeah.
That's it.
Bloomborough was a plane that was entirely almost a self-contained story, and you can just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, and there's those tiny little threads, right? There's Raoul Zarek is technically there. The Dragonstorm is technically there.
I do like the idea of Raoul Zarek like coming in with a plan and an agenda, and then like 9 years later, he's just lying upside down in like a lake, just floating along. He's like, oh fuck!
Oh shit! I got a thing to do.
Oh fuck! I have a human husband somewhere. I've been an otter for so long. And then the next major plot of the story is that when we get to Moraganda, all hell breaks loose. As it turned out, that the Moraganda huge air quotes government really didn't actually want there to be a race here, so they've just decided to just openly attack the racers.
Yeah.
Right, all the dinosaurs and dragons and blah, they just
There's a great picture of just a giant fuzzy almost sloth looking creature, more like a rodent, and he's just like chewing on a car because he's huge and he's just like grabbing things and eating them.
The wildlife didn't sign up for the race going through. This is like when they have the wildcard rallies in Africa and there's like lions and wildebeest and shit just on the course. And like,
exactly.
Oh, shit.
But now imagine the lion and wildebeest are 7 times bigger. That's your race.
And then there's this sort of huge pileup that happens when a thing on Moraganda called a moonstorm happens, which is literally pieces of the moon start to fall.
God, it's falling dragons and falling moons.
I know. This is a tough race.
In one of them, there's this dragons falling and moons falling, and they're just colliding with each other. It's like a repellent. It's two different streams.
And Duretti, Chandra, Winter, with Loot attached, and Pia Nalar are basically involved in a giant pileup, right? They crash off into the forest.
So like Wanneroo Market's car park on a Sunday.
Yeah. And Loot gets nicked out of a car, right? Loot gets nicked. Winter is able to find his way back onto the track, but now he has no other way to cheat. And Chandra and Pia and Duretti are like, oh, fuck, I guess we're going to have to like rescue this little guy, right? So they go on sort of like a side quest. They realize now we're going to have a pretty hard time winning the race, but we need to go rescue him from like some dinosaur people that stole him. They end up getting him. He figures out how to give them like an omen path home. That's when Chandra realizes, oh, wow, this kid's like really, really useful. And he pops them out in the sky above Amonkhet. So they find their way back into like the race in actually a pretty competitive position, but about 1 kilometer in the air. And then they just fall. And
Unideal.
yeah, less than ideal. And
they're just shaking the little furball like new armor path, new armor path.
yeah, and so then Duretti and PNLR basically build an entire vehicle from scratch from like an oasis that they find in there. They just start MacGyvering shit together, right? It's rocks and palm trees and strapping an engine to it somehow.
There's a whole like ecology of insects and animals that live in there. They come back and they're like, oh, we required this water to travel another 9,000 feet.
Yeah. We steamed this entire like little oasis so that we could turn crocodiles into wheels and all sorts of shit. And yeah, they managed.
That's how the bug people first became things. Someone else was turning them into it. Like, I guess we accept our fate.
They're like, this is actually pretty cool. I guess I'm pretty nice with being a car. And then yeah, they find their way back into the race. And Chandra and PNLR and Duretti are kind of like part of a team now. And then they get to Avishkar, and it's like the final stretch. At the finish line, Jace like makes his play to try and get loot. He's like, there he is. That's my fuzzy little son. I'm gonna get him. And he's instigated like a minor rebellion inside of Amonkhet. Basically people that are just like, I liked the way it was. I want to bring back Kaladesh.
Why are there race cars everywhere?
Yeah. It's literally like he goes to the old and conservative and is like, you know,
I liked it more when it was
Kaladesh great again, right?
Yeah.
So then it just completely like fucks up the entire race. Everybody crashes. There's like giant pillars that like pop up and people slam into them. Then Chandra and Spitfire sort of team up. There's a rare in the set that has them like fighting at the camera, and Chandra's got loot like stuffed into her racing suit. And it's like, I heard you were looking for a fight, so now you found two.
Sounded cooler in her head when she said,
yeah. And yeah, then
I think I know the car you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the triple red one.
the one that lets you take not the triple red one. That's when they're like building the vehicle in the desert or falling. I think it's the one where you get to take 2 extra combats.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the moment in the story.
Right?
Yeah. They basically try to fight Jace, but then they get fought off by all of the other racers being mind controlled. And it turns out that the only person that can't be mind controlled is the Amonkhet team, who have a zombie.
Oh yeah, they have no brains.
They're
zombies.
They have a zombie cat at their leader, and the zombie cat makes it across the finish line. Like no one is able to sort of compete with them. They just
I like the idea
coast
that
on through.
while everyone is fighting, they're still in the race and they're just kind of like
they're just still going.
They just walk on through the finish line. Did we get there, guys? We won. Woo!
That's actually how I stop myself being mind controlled by the current government is by being stupid as possible. So
yeah, it's a
don't take my
preemptive lobotomy. Yeah, it's a
the plot line to me feels
preventative.
more like Snatch the movie. You know what I mean? Like this is it's like so many. It starts with a plan and everything goes off of the plan so quickly and ajar so many times.
Yes.
It feels like it's like that same like skip beat of like, you know, a new character's in charge now, and then it's like then they do well for a while. Then it's like some new character's in charge now, and you're like,
which is why I'd say the reference for this set more so than anything like Fast and the Furious is wacky races. This is a wild, crazy event. There's not technically really any rules. There's some regulations. We've got flying vehicles. We've got animals. We've got rocket cars. Like we've got light speed bikes. There's no
There's no
rules.
rules. And anything goes.
is it more like a rally where they're all really tight, or is it more like a like an amazing race where there's checkpoints and there's people going from one spot to the next?
It's pretty close to like an Amazing Race, right? Where it's like it's broken up into 5 stages, right? The like plane to plane, then back again. So you have to get to the Omen path, and then I think you like take a break. Then you start the next leg on the next day, that kind of thing.
So now that the Amonkhet team have the Aetherspark, do we know roughly what they plan on doing with it?
Not a clue.
Gotcha.
Not a goddamn clue. It's literally just like we have now shown the multiverse that we are a real society again that can succeed at things and win. Right? It's a previously war-torn nation getting gold at the Olympics.
It's pretty close to real world Olympics, right? Where it's nations coming together being like, hey, this is what we're capable of.
Yeah, exactly. And then so they're a nation that previously had some really bad shit happen. they get to win at the competition. Everybody's really excited.
And now that Jace has loot again, and that's kind of the conclusion of the story, we're kind of figuring out what's next.
Yes, Jace and Vraska take loot, and they're like, we've got stuff to do. And Chandra, who's now developed kind of like a friendship with loot, is like, well, I guess I've got to stop them now. But I don't know what I'm trying to stop them from doing.
Yeah.
You guys look like you're having too much fun, and I am not about that
Is
shit.
Is Lute okay with what's happening to him? Is he kind of just going on with the ride, or does he have any opinions?
Loot is really good at one thing, which is making friends. And he is less good about choosing good friends. So Jason Vraska showed up, and he immediately went, Mommy and Daddy, right? Like straight away. He just loves them unconditionally. Then during the race, Chandra rescues him, and he's like, you're my best friend. Yay! And now he's going back to Jason Vraska, and he's kind of like, oh, I have 3 friends now, and 2 of them took me, and 1 of them is mad. He's just a tiny child.
Gotcha.
Just happy to exist in whatever presence is in, right?
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're like vaguely
Any
friendly.
theory on what you think's going to happen?
It's really hard to speculate. Loot has one of these like, I don't know, pseudo unprecedented abilities that it's hard to conceptualize what they're even going to do with it.
Yeah.
Like,
He's the ultimate plot point character. You can do anything with this character.
But he doesn't have that kind of like Deus Ex Machina power where it's like, oh, he's going to rewrite reality.
Your early like Baby Yoda assessment is probably the closest one to it, right? Where they're like the individual self doesn't really have any governance over what's going on or really too much of an opinion. It just is whatever it is and is ever powerful whether it realizes or not.
Yes, and the plot is more about trying to control who has the baby, right? Rather than the baby itself.
Most importantly, right, you guys are quite knowledgeable about cards in Magic.
Sure.
If you were to enter your own team, which vehicle from Magic would you be using? And who would be your captain?
Liliana Vess.
And what, just in a see-through tube?
What? No, I just heard the part where he said enter.
Kang is like, I hear your question. I would like to ride Liliana Vess.
The vehicle is Kang.
I would like her to ride me.
Like, there's a few like there's a few vehicles where it's like a weird like trundle cart. It's at least from her. That's her like it's from it's one where it's from the Wolf version of Innistrad. And it's a vehicle, but it's, I don't know. It's it's her area at least.
You got a really good spectrum of cool vehicles, boats, and planes and stuff you can pick from, right? Like the realistic option is I'll probably pick the Weatherlight. Just Weatherlight, plastic big old ship, and itself can already planeswalk.
I mean, it could be like a Dominaria led team. You get the Weatherlight crew back. Well, actually, no, the Weatherlight got
most of them are
the Weatherlight got completed.
Yeah,
there was that happened. I would just really love to see I'm blanking on the name. I've got all of Magic lore in my head, and I'm like sifting through my fucking mind library to find it. Kaldheim. I'd love to see a Kaldheim team.
Ooh.
Because it would be like
a flying longship,
heavy metal Viking longship. Yeah.
I'm going with Thunderhawk Space Marine ship because it's one of those.
It's in Magic now. It's in the Magic universe. 40K.
This.
So 40K universe beyond technically exists now, right? So we have the Thunderhawk gunship you're rewriting.
Well, that's a vehicle in Magic the Gathering.
I think you win, right? You just kill everyone.
It does come with its own bolt cannons on the side.
Can I change my pick to like a Reaver Titan or something?
I thought about the Reaver Titan first, but he's a walkie guy, right? So he's going to be inhibited by his ability to walk in some places.
Shoot you, bro.
It enters a plane and the Reaver Titan's just bigger than the level of plane. The plane collapses because of the size of the Reaver Titan.
I'm real lame over here with my flying boat. You have a giant space traveling gunship.
I also picked flying boat.
Yeah, but my flying boat is way less cool.
And I reckon I'd have something like a character like Kresh from like Shards of Alara, where he's just a really angry guy with dreadlocks, and he's just like standing in the cockpit, like,
he doesn't know what to do
raging.
With it.
Yeah, he's just raging. Like,
just have him in the corner.
Charge!
His job is just to be a mascot in the corner.
That could be fun. I'd also like to kind of see like what could happen if we got teams from Ravnica. Right? Like there's a potential there. I don't know, like the Golgari race, they're basically kind of like the same insect team now that I think about it. The Simic could probably put something weird together.
The Simic would just biologically engineer Usain Bolt.
To me it's more like a mutant thing, like a Who's that? He's actually in this set. The green blue like red ooze. I think he is, or green blue black.
Mimeoplasm.
The mimeoplasm. I imagine like the mimeoplasm is what they would produce. It's just like this like flying glue through the air, and it's like killing me.
Niv Mizzet will probably just like figure out a plan to.
Nah, he would make a ship that looks like himself.
Yeah.
So he could drive himself.
100%.
He'd be like, I am the most efficient shape.
It's got Niv Mizzet's face on the front. It's got his face on every single one of the rivets.
Yeah.
His face is also the wheels.
But he's done all the maths to know that he'll win.
Yes. Yeah, so there's it's funny that you bring up the mimeoplasm. There's a couple of legends that pop up in this set, legendary creatures that are not really tied to the story. They're just kind of there. I brought up the gods of New Amonkhet. They're not involved in the story. The mimeoplasm is one of them. It's from Muruganda. We knew that it was from Muruganda before this. Now we just get to see it again on Muruganda.
On its own planet.
Yeah.
There's also the enchantment where you make like little ooze goo guys as well. So like I guess that's like an homage to where he came from.
Yeah, pretty much. Muruganda, because it's like a post-apocalyptic plane, like technically, quote unquote, it's like post-cataclysm, post-bad stuff. The oozes are like pseudo-gods because they live forever and they consume things.
Oh, so like a living god, I guess.
They're like a living god. The dinosaur people,
much like myself,
the Saurians, I think they're called. They largely worship the mimeoplasm because it's the ooze that's been around for the longest. And
they're worshipping the mold.
They're just
on the
like
wall.
they're just living in their hut, and they're just like, "Daddy, tell me of the ooze." He's like, "This pile of goop has been in my family for generations."
That pile of goop probably is their family because when their leaders die,
they just throw them into a pit where the ooze is.
They throw them into the ooze. That's literally it.
That's amazing.
The mimeoplasm like migrates around the plane in a very consistent pattern, so they get to like watch it coming and going.
I like the idea of it's slowly migrating around the plane, and like it's coming, like, oh, it's coming, and like Granddad's like getting into his 80s, and they're like, oh, it's time to go. He's like, I'm not dead. He's like, the ooze is here.
The ooze is here.
Get in the ooze.
You gotta go, bro.
I can't pay for old folks home anymore.
You get in the ooze now, or we have to wait until next year.
You're
Get
definitely
in the
not going to
goo.
survive for another year till you get back. So you got to get in the ooze, man.
This is a question to you as well, Matt.
Sure.
Now that we've had this,
You don't want to ask me?
Oh yeah,
Seems-
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you can see if,
Anyway,
see if
sorry,
you can
Danny,
answer this one, Danny.
This is for you. All right, Danny.
All right, thanks, yeah.
So now that we've have the Aetherdrift racing thing happening, and we've just finished all the Phyrexian
Absolutely.
plotline,
All over
where
it,
are the Phyrexians now?
My name is Jeff.
Anyway, so Matt, more appropriately, yeah. So have we seen the last of the Phyrexians? Where are the Phyrexians now? Previously in the past, we've had storylines where like the Phyrexians, their planet's gone and they've come back, and it's gone again. They've come back. They seem fairly resilient. Where do you think roughly? Like, is this the last of the Phyrexians we've seen?
Yes and no. They kind of sit in a weird nebulous space that Nicol Bolas does at the moment, where we know exactly where they are in the multiverse. They're just locked away.
Gotcha.
Right? So Nicol Bolas is being watched over by Ugin on a tiny little subplane.
You tricked him into it, right?
Called the Meditation Realm. Yeah. And he like has no name. He's not technically called Nicol Bolas anymore, which means he has like no magic in the way that dragons work. The Phyrexians, Teferi, where he was from, like Zalfir, right? Where it was like phased out of the multiverse. At the end of the Phyrexian War, well, yeah, I guess it was the end of the Phyrexian War. They did this thing where they swapped where Zalfir was and New Phyrexia was.
Gotcha.
So now New Phyrexia
Got
is
phased out.
It's phased out of existence. It still exists as a plane. It's just in like a
It's in a purgatory stasis.
Pulled the old board wipe to Fairy's protection trick.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the writer's way of being like, oh, we can't really get rid of them. They're too important for us to write stories with.
It's like they Teferi's protection out of the game, but then had to go home. So like their permanence phased out. Everyone else continued playing the game, and it's like, where'd they go? They don't get to come back into it.
It's that classic D&D scene in like a TV show or something where they're playing D&D, but in the background is the mum yelling at like one of the sons to like go, I don't know, change his room or something like that.
Yeah, and in universe, in storyline, he has like disappears.
You know,
he lives lost in the forest right now.
Yeah, he can't come to the phone.
So we have the Praetors. It was the big war where a bunch of the Praetors died, I think.
pretty much all of
dead.
them. Pretty much all of them. Orbrask, Shieldred, Elish Norn, Jingataxis, and Vorinclex both died, but conceivably they could come back. Vorinclex is probably the only one that's like feasible that he could come back because he seems to be able to regenerate himself really easily, like from fucking nothing. But yeah, we know where the Phyrexians are. They're just on a little pocket
So
plane.
Urabras died?
Oh, Urabras super died. Yeah, there's a card art that shows him being ripped in half.
Oh, okay.
Elish Norn.
I missed that part.
Elish Norn executed him and executed Shieldred.
For kind of like being for like a insurrection, right?
Yeah. They weren't super keen with the whole March of the Machines thing. They wanted to just control Phyrexia. There's a couple of references inside Aetherdrift to like weird, suspicious fears that the people of the multiverse have about Phyrexians. For example, like the Guidelight Voyagers, the blue-white racing team. People are low-key convinced / like conspiracy theory that they're a new form of Phyrexia, because they're just robot people and that kind of stuff. They state explicitly in the story they are not, but there's a lot of people that are like, is that a Phyrexian?
I guess if
like
you have essentially a biomechanical race being the dominant villain for so long, when you have another mechanical race appear, people are ready to jump on to be like, that could be in the next villain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people in the multiverse.
I don't know about you guys, but I also wouldn't trust a robot.
Racists everywhere you look.
Especially,
I'm extremely racist to robots.
especially if
My toaster starts speaking back to me,
Yeah,
throw it in the pool.
and then there's also like the Gestal, the Mad Max plane. The one sort of thing that like really separates it from actually being Mad Max is that they have vampires and zombies. And the vampires are specifically oil drinkers. They don't drink
the
blood.
gas guzzlers.
The gas guzzlers, right?
That's a shit vampire.
It's a real art. And
I want to suck your petrol.
In Perth, you park your car some places and you come out to gas guzzlers.
Instead of it being like this, like, you know, in Innistrad, for example, there's these town villages and they live in their hovels and they fear this oncoming, like, impending doom of them, like being
Any moment the vampires come through
into like a ceaseless dead that they'll never be able to escape. And in like this realm, they're just like, fucking vampires got my fucking petrol again. Paid $1.69 this week. God damn it!
You come out in the middle of the night and there's a vampire like hunched over your car. Go
and you just add it with like a flashlight, like
Go away. Fuck off.
it turns from this like evil impending doom into this like minor inconvenience. Like, God,
they're like raccoons,
What do I
right?
do?
You're just like, get the fuck away from my shit.
that's so very true.
The vampires of Gestal are like bin chickens or something, where you're just like, stop getting into my fucking
Bin
garbage.
chickens is absolutely the best reference to like you're like, and your neighbor keeps leaving petrol out in a little bowl to feed them. You're like, fuck Jim, stop it, man.
You're just encouraging them.
You keep bringing them around.
Yeah.
Wait, there's also undead, you said.
Yeah, there's zombies from that plane as well.
Do that. What
What are they eating? They're the bin chickens. They're just eating out of the bins and shit.
I don't know, man. People
They sit on top of
probably.
your car and shit. And you're like, fuck's sake.
Yeah, so the gas guzzlers, people are worried about them as well because there's a couple of things in the flavor text of this set where it's like, oh shit, are they going to drink the Phyrexian oil? Right? They're going to like find their way onto a different plane. They're going to drink what's left of the oil, and it's like, oh look, that's food. Oh shit, that's really bad food.
And then we're back to Phyrexian again.
Yeah, I do like the idea of them being used to like, you know, let's say a car crashes and they just have like a yellow bin full of these vampires. So they're like just let out to like clean up the spill. You know what I mean? It's like a spill clean kit.
It's
just
nature's
there
own
licking
cleanup.
it off the floor.
Oh, I've got another oil leak on set 4. Can you guys go get Jeff? Jeff
I
was
like that people are more concerned about these, you know, fucking vampires gas guzzling versus the literal manifestation of nightmares trying to escape its realm.
yeah, the speed
Valgavoth.
demon.
Yeah, Valgavoth.
He's over there just trying to be evil. He's like, hey guys, look at me.
Valgavoth that's enrapturing an entire plane in nightmares is trying to leave, and everyone's like, don't let that guy.
Yeah, there's this house that's trying to eat people, and everybody's looking in the corner at these little like scrawny vampires. Just
This robot
The
nerd is
oil
trying to
off
be
the
like,
ground.
guys, I swear I'm not the villain. I'm trying to be a robot.
I'm just a robot.
You know when you're like cooking in your house and you smell like gas, you've left the gas on in the oven or something like that? Like you just like constantly seeing, you're like, is that gas? Oh, it's the fucking vampires. I do like they're also inherently flammable.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
they're
for sure.
It's like vampires are already like impervious to, not impervious, pervious. The
Yeah.
opposite
They're
of impervious.
very pervious.
Very
Yeah.
pervious
So vulnerable.
to flames. And these guys just double tie.
Yeah. They're dry, desiccated skin covered in petrol.
Or they like, when they run out of the whoever the fuel guys are, they run out
Yeah.
of fuel and they just get the vampires and wring them out like a wet towel into their fuel tanks.
Oh, like the blood bags in Mad Max.
Yeah.
Right? You strap them to the front of your car and just
Yeah, no shit. Actually,
you got a portable petrol tank.
I'm surprised they haven't used that exact thing in this. That'd be perfect for that.
And then you let them out at night. They go scourge around, get some
just
oil,
on long like neck ropes or whatever,
and then you
It's
just
they'll come
reel them back in the morning, strap them to your car. Yeah, sounds like a good way to be very fuel efficient.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, so the Phyrexians they're locked away in their little subplane, and the multiverse is largely just like, oh, are they going to come back?
So right now, don't worry about it.
Yeah, but exactly.
The Phyrexians were the original, like in Fifth Dawn, were the original.
They were the OG villain
constructors of like portal planes as well, right?
No,
they have a whole card that is planar portal, don't they?
Thran with a
planar portals in old school Magic have existed for a long time, and the Phyrexians were a race that didn't exist for a long time. Yawgmoth was part of the Thran. I mean, this is like old school, like deep cut lore. Yawgmoth was part of the Thran that lived on Dominaria. He found a way to make a planar portal, or technically there was one that already existed.
The ones in Caves of Kelios, right?
The Caves of Koilos, right? Yeah. Which
is also where they find the Meekstone Mightstone?
Yeah. That was actually the locking mechanism, right? And then he finds his way to a plane that he then calls Phyrexia, and basically starts, he like invents a plague that allows him to turn people into Phyrexians. So yeah, like that was kind of his thing back in the day, was trying to find ways into other planes, because you couldn't do that for a long time. The Wrath setting is, he, instead of trying to do portals, he made an entire fake plane that existed in the same planar space as Dominaria to literally like overlay them.
Yes, yeah.
Right, which was like, if I can't portal onto the plane, I'll just and like squish two planes together.
It's kind of like how, as far as I remember, it's when reading the lore, is about like, you know, like, so there's the Darthy Voidwalker and the guys that have shadow. They're like multi shadows them, right? So that they cross over.
Yeah, that was part of Tempest Block. They're from Mercadia. There's other stuff happening with the shadow guys, where it's like there's a shadow world that they get pulled into. The Weatherlight Saga largely involved like a planar ship that could travel, and there were giant portals, kind of, that existed, but they were like huge technology things.
I've read through that story so many times, and there's so much of it, and it's so branching, it's hard to keep in my brain what is where. Like I've read
a lot of it is hard to follow because they didn't have one consistent source of story.
I think most of it's come from me is like, you know, the classic like pre-good internet days, which now I would say it was the good internet days, but it's like less functional. I would just read Wikipedias of things, and just like Wikipedias of every Magic card, and all that Weatherlight Saga I've consumed primarily through just Wikipedia pages about cards.
Yeah, like absorbing it via osmosis. For sure. I mean, that's how I started a lot of my Magic lore, and then I went and sought out like books and PDFs and stuff like that. So the planar technology was around. It did exist, and then it didn't for a long time. I think like all the portals in the multiverse shut down in the mending. They just stopped. So yeah, now we're in kind of like a new age of Magic where there's the Omen Paths and stuff. And I do like that we get to tell these like little self-contained stories that have a trickling of the main story, quote unquote, through it. But for most players, the main story is just loot pops up somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
hence why he's such a divisive character.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people have very negative reactions to loot, and that I've heard and experienced, where he just feels like a cute little character that pops up in the set for no reason.
He's definitely a mascotty character.
He is there for a reason, and he's actually very important to the plot, but that plot is buried in the background. It's not the main plot of the set.
Yeah, maybe something is communicated as forward, so people assuming it's the background, really it's not.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, if, there was an entire new series of Star Wars movies that came out, and Grogu kept showing up in like promotional material, and then was in like one or two scenes where everyone was like, why the fuck are you marketing him? But he's actually like, if you were reading the side novels that went along with the movies, then you'd know where he was.
This is a bit more like the beginning of like the Marvel series when Nick Cage would keep showing up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Loot is the Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. Of Magic the Gathering. I like it a lot, because what it feels like is that we're finally reaching a point where the Magic storyline is going somewhere again. we were kind of in a bit of like a limbo of self-contained stories, which is fun and all, but they didn't feel like there was any sort of like continuity. And now we're reaching a point of continuity again, and we're kind of bringing ourselves back to something. So I really appreciate you jumping on, Matt, as well, kind of getting us all up to scratch as well, because it feels like I'm from here I can kind of just continue on with what's going on, because up until now it was a bit scattered.
Yeah, you can see where the plot is going, and the plot has been trickling through the last couple of sets. But yeah, it's been all in the background.
Prediction for evil, next big evil, the Fomori.
Well, maybe. I think
it's the dragons. Maybe.
The most important thing I want to find out is what's happening with this dragon storm. Because if the dragon storms are starting again, that's some sign of something happening with Ugin.
I think what we should do is we should go check our insurances for our car race and see if they've the insurance has cancelled our dragon insurance.
Yep.
If they've cancelled the dragon insurance, then you can be damn sure there's a dragon storm coming.
Yeah, your dragon storm premiums have gone up. Yeah, 100%.
And that's Takia Dragonstorm. After that, we have a few more sets to look forward to as well. We have the Final Fantasy Universe Beyond set looking forward to as well.
It's mostly Universes Beyond.
Yeah, and then after that one, the next set that we kind of look forward to is the Spider-Verse set.
Who do you
That's
think
the
Luke
Marvel
will be in
Spider-Verse.
the Final Fantasy setting?
A chocobo. I don't know.
Characters from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
I am excited for the product line that we will inevitably get, which is a line of plushies, and there'll be Loot as a cowboy, and then Loot in a car racing onesie. I'm excited to sell.
We're already having these fluffy Loot deck boxes arrive. They come with a strap, so you can wear them kind of like a purse.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's honestly, that's fucking cool.
That's
I like
actually
that a lot.
the real thing that's coming
I'm
out.
going to keep my credit cards in there, so when I'm buying things at Woolworths, that I have to pull them out of that.
Now, you'll like the Fipple one more.
Oh.
Because you keep losing things.
I did have to leave my house twice without my keys.
Yeah.
So you're correct.
The funny thing is that Loot is a distinguishable enough character that he can kind of just slide into any universe beyond. Luke could look like he belongs to Final Fantasy. Luke could belong in Marvel.
For sure. I mean, yeah, he's just he has a style that is different than most other Magic characters, which is kind of why he also feels a little bit out of place. But Magic also has that, right? Where like from plane to plane, goblins look entirely different and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very, very weird. We don't even technically know what race Loot is. He's associated with the Fomori. The place where they found him had a whole bunch of like Fomori relics and stuff, but he doesn't look even remotely like a Fomori. Unless, I don't know, they have a weird like fuzzy little ball stage and then they turn into giant goats later.
As part of the evolutionary stage, you just divert once at one time. Like,
Yeah, I don't
we
know.
are in the multiverse, right? Like things can like that can happen. It's like they went back in time, they like really fucked it up, and if they went back in time again, they're like, oh, we're not going to touch that grouping of them.
I mean, hell, it could be a Pokemon situation, right? That he just changes visual appear. Maybe it's a Digimon thing more. That's probably a more distinct reference where you go from something to something completely different on the next stage.
You're doing the evolving process, but like a fly got caught in like Flyboy, and now it comes out. It's like a dust ball like from the desert land, like came across, and now just half a desert buff fluff ball. And you're like, oh, shit.
All right, we're reaching an hour, 20 minutes. Thank you very much for this lore-filled episode, Matt.
Not a problem.
Really
I'm always
appreciate you
happy to be on.
Was there any last like important pinpoint to the story that is integral for us to know moving into the Dragonstorm?
No, I think I've largely covered the main stuff. I mean, like I've been saying, the last couple of Magic sets and most likely Dragonstorm going forward are mostly self-contained. The one thing to look forward to, I think, with the next set is it requires a lot of knowledge of the backstory of Tarkir. And I'm sure I'll go into that when Dragonstorm comes up. I'd love to pop up again whenever you guys need a refresher on the story. But from this story specifically, from Aetherdrift, I think I've covered the main parts. There's a couple of moments in the story that I really, really liked. Ketramos, the white-black god, there's a bit where he just has a real heart-to-heart story, like conversation with Chandra. They just sit on the Amonkhet sand by an oasis in the middle of the night and just bond. And it's like a tiny little human person next to this titanic god. And the way that he speaks, it like in the story, it's all in capital letters. And he has this like deep booming voice, but he's genuinely listening to what Chandra's saying because he's also kind of a child. He hasn't existed very long.
fresh god.
Super fresh, right?
Yeah.
And like, are the Planeswalkers all super old?
No.
I think also they can be young as well. I assume that they were filled with like a impervious to time kind of situation.
They used to be. Planeswalkers back in the old school story used to be
there are
literally
some
immortal.
very old planeswalkers.
Yeah, I mean, Teferi's probably pushing on a couple thousand years at this point. But for that big chunk in Magic story where planeswalkers were the only ones that could move, they're just regular people that typically have something really emotional happen and then they become a superhero. But yeah, so I think I've covered the main plots. It's a big wacky race. It goes off the rails almost immediately. Loot is heavily involved, and then his dad swoops in at the last minute and picks him up from school.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so
Well, one last question.
okay,
Because you're the master of lore, knowing of all knowledge to do with magic, 100% unfaltering, Matt.
Yeah, I am the perennial. No, penultimate. I am the penultimate knower of old magic things.
What is the lore behind the ticket tortoise?
The ticket tortoise is a reference. That's it.
His flavor text says, "Admit one, enjoy the race," and I just they've gone to the effort of making a tortoise that hands out tickets.
yeah, because he's too slow to race. He needs a
He's
job,
never going to
bro.
get in the race.
Yeah.
He's the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Earlier
and
in
he
the,
gets as close to the race as he can.
Earlier in this podcast episode, we mentioned the Mario Kart reference, but there is a literal blue shell.
Yes, that's actually the one I was thinking about. Is there's a blue shell that chases people down. Its whole mechanic is that if someone has higher speed than you, it makes their speed lower.
What card is this?
I want to say it's like the spike shell.
Oh, so it's real
shot or
abrasive
something.
on the
It's Mario Kart.
Yeah, it's a blue shelled mechanical thing.
Oh, very cool.
All right, so from Northern, sorry.
The tortoise is just on Avishkar. They make their robots look like animals.
Yeah.
That's their preference for things. Like they have a postal robot, it looks like a spider. That kind of stuff. They have a chariot, it looks kind of
I think
like
it's
a thing.
they've designed a lot of their machines inspired by nature.
Yes.
They were like, nature does it best. We're going to make our machines like they can do it.
Yeah, and
in nature.
apparently that was super useful in the Phyrexian invasion because they were able to make giant mechanical creations that didn't have a sentience, so they were uncompletable.
Yeah. Perfect.
Makes sense.
All right, so from Northern Board side of things as well, if you want to come down and kind of experience a bit more of the Aetherdrift season, we have ourselves what's also called the Gearbox Grand Prix, where you come down to our events and you get some goodies and prizes, things like patches, card stickers, dice, and also keychains. The eligible events for these ones here will be our draft nights every Saturday, as well as our commander party that's happening on the 23rd, I believe, so next week, Sunday. Just come on down to our events, just give it a go. You get some cool prizes, enjoy a bit of Aetherdrift action as well. Otherwise, you got anything you want to add as well, Danny?
Now, if you come down, join the Patreon, and I'll show you what the testicle looking.
Oh, do we have any more
card looks
patrons?
Like. Not this week.
Okay.
Yes, so sign up.
Sign up for the Patreon and Danny will show you a testicle.
Yes, correct.
All right. Thank you very much for being here, guys.
Someone will.
Signing out. Testicles.
See you next time, race fans.